What I have learned from my experience of surviving cult abuse, living through that environment, and also the process of healing that, is that freedom is dependent upon you finding it inside, beyond your circumstances. Freedom is not associated with the conditions of your experience. And I'm going to explain to you a couple of stories about how I know that. So one is, growing up in a satanic cult, the only way to survive as a child with repetitive, ongoing trauma is that your psyche fragments and you develop what is called dissociative identity disorder, previously known as multiple personality disorder. This is a complex survival strategy that the brain uses to be able to segment and put away trauma that is too overwhelming for a child to experience and survive psychologically. It meant that I had what you could call multiple personalities. However, technically, and they changed the name for this reason, that it's actually one personality that never got to form properly. But doing so meant that my psyche protected itself. And it clearly did very well because I'm here today. My first memory of a personality part that I had called Violet, who went by the name of Violet, is when I was about 7. When I was 7, I was in my family home and my parents would have these parties. And after the dinner party part, or the Bible study part, people would stay behind. And these people were unfortunately very unwell, spiritually, psychologically, and they were pedophiles. And one of these times when I was about 7, Violet was present in my psyche, in my being. And I remember one of the men grabbing my leg. And I went a bit crazy and bit him. And then I was put into the shed for several hours, naked, cold, and alone, and told that I had done the wrong thing and that I would go to jail, and that I would go to jail if I told anybody as well. Which is ridiculous because it's the opposite. But when you're a child, you're going to believe that. You're going to believe anything that they tell you. But I remember the feeling inside of like, you will not touch me, like you will not. I didn't have those words psychologically as a kid, but that is the feeling. So throughout growing up in that, there were many experiences with many different personality parts and many different sorts of violences. And there were many times where I had to be compliant to survive and to obey or appease. But Violet continued on. And any moment that I could, in big or small ways, I would fight back as Violet. And the reason that I identified myself as Violet, more so a full identity when I was about 16, 17, was that I imagined that Violet was a warrior inside of me, and that every time something bad happened to me, it was making me stronger and more free. And like the electricity that was shot into my body, I could take it in, and it would make me get these electric violet purple eyes, and every piece of it would give me an extra warrior marking on my skin. This is all an intense visualization of a dissociative mind, but that is how DID works, and that is why I lived. So I was Violet, and I was fearless, and I was indestructible, because anything they did made me stronger. So when I was 17 and I was being sold for sex or rape, when they wanted a party, I would be very still. And that was a way of saying, fuck you. When I was about 18, I was asked to do something very dark and very violent, which I won't repeat here. But I had always also been connected to spirit. I had always also had spiritual beings around me. when I was 17, 18, at this time, this moment, I knew that if I did what they'd asked me to do, I would be compromising my soul and my heart. And I knew that death was okay because I'd had multiple near-death experiences at that point. And I said, you can kill me, like, I do not care anymore. And I refused. And they tried to make me do it more, with more violence, but I still at 17 said, fuck you. And I remember saying to the perpetrators and my dad, or one of which was my dad, and saying, you are pathetic, like, you are so weak. And that made them more mad. But I was protecting in a very angry, twisted teenage way my own heart and the freedom of my heart and my soul. So any moment I could say no, I did. Any moment I could protect my soul, I did. So in this moment I said, no, you can kill me. This allowed me to become free because it broke their empty threat. It was empty. It would be much of a nuisance to actually kill me. So I was discarded from the cult, which is a term that they used when you were no longer useful, which I wasn't because I was being crazy rebellious. So my commitment to my spirit and me listening to my spirit guides around me who had said to me since I was 7, I remember my spirit guide, this beautiful, tall, white-skinned, etheric, see-through pretty lady who, when you're little, you're not like, it's a spirit guide, you're like, hello, parent, friend that I don't know, but you're always there talking to me. And I remember her saying to me one time when I was out of my body, because my body was being harmed, and she said, you stay alive in here. And she pointed to my heart. And that was just one moment of many spiritual experiences where she told me that if I kind of flew into my heart energetically, I could protect myself somewhat. I could protect my psyche somewhat. So I was discarded at 17, 18. Fast forward, because I have to, yeah. When I was 25, I had a breakthrough or a breakdown. How many people are like, I'm free now and I'm going to heal all things, and it's like, it's a breakdown. Yeah. Okay. Because healing means feeling the unfelt. So when I was 25, all of my dissociative barriers dissolved because I was finally safe enough. I had run across the state with a suitcase and my 2 cats. I had finally disconnected from all family. It was a slow process. My 20s were like a haze of dissociation and binge drinking. And I got a therapist at 25. I did 6 years of healing in therapy, and I also did 6 years of training with spirit, because I had many moments where I did not feel free from living with severe PTSD and dissociative disorder symptoms. And that's what I mean about when I got free from the cult. It's like, hooray. And I remember sitting in my therapist, her chair, my chair in her office, and I was like, I'm free now, like, why don't I feel free? And like, I was really frustrated. And because when I would get feelings of freedom or lightness or happiness, I actually felt immediate fear. And my therapist, I remember her saying to me, like, she said, if you have a dog or a wild wolf that's been put in a cage all its life, and it's only known the cage, and you open the door, do you think it's just gonna like come just out? I was like, I guess not. I was frustrated at her rightness. And she said, no, it's gonna not understand the concept of the door being open. And you just have to sit right outside and offer it your hand or offer it your presence. And so that's what I had to do for years to become the person that I am today. I sat with different parts of myself that did not want to go outside the door into a world of freedom that felt too spacious and too open, and I don't know who I am without instructions of people telling me what to do or without threat around me. What the fuck is this joy feeling inside of me? Is this allowed? Is this okay? And still to this day, honestly, like the other week, I was like, I did some forgiveness practice, and then I felt this spaciousness inside of myself, and I had a little part of me be like, is this okay? Like, is this allowed? And I have to keep reassuring those parts of me that it's safe to be free, and that I'm free to be free. Because in the past, when I thought I was free, there were lots of times or moments when I thought it was okay and I wasn't okay and it was taken away and changed. But this was the true freedom. And so, if we're trying to understand freedom, we're trying to understand how to create freedom inside, not outside of us. Because it didn't matter what was happening outside of me. It was always what was happening within. And it also really related to some of the speakers here on the MS and the first speaker here around the concepts of pain and finding freedom around pain. That when I sat with severe PTSD symptoms or electricity memories running through my body, like the only choice is to find acceptance with that. Freedom is resistance is suffering, and freedom is to find peace with what you're experiencing and to be free to live your life and be in the present moment. So, because I kept choosing my spirit, because I kept following that, because I chose spirit over my own life, spirit meaning my essence, my choice to exist, because I allowed myself to become Violet, who was fierce and fearless, and now is an integrated part of me that is just the part that doesn't let anybody fuck with me, that doesn't let any of my expression be overtaken, and is the part of me that fiercely leads others to live the same. Because I did all of that, I got to become a whole person who is free today, at 33, integrated from dissociative identity disorder, don't fit the diagnostic thing anymore. And just really celebrated in all of who I am. And this freedom is that softness of I like allow that freedom, and I have to allow that happiness, and we have to allow that in our lives and know that it's okay to feel good. It's not just people who are traumatized that have that complex. A lot of people don't realize you're doing it to yourself, but you might be. And then also the freedom, which is the right to be who you are, not who you were conditioned to be. To be the person that you came and that you're meant to be, so that you can lead others to do the same. To live in that sovereignty and the remembrance of who you truly are, which for all of us, even if you don't have the exact same experience as me, our conditioning separates us from that essence. But we're here to be that person that is unconditionally whole inside that essence, spirit, God, love. And I'm so grateful for that, and thank you.